Back in October 2025, my wife got me a DNA test, the one to check where your ancestry is from. So mostly the regions, not the medical assessment or anything like health conditions. So it's mostly about the regions where my DNA comes from. I was always very curious to know about that because, for context, my father is Italian Brazilian and my mother is Portuguese. So I always wondered if I actually have that much, Italian or Brazilian blood, and how much of Portuguese blood I actually have, and any other mixture I might have. So, yeah, I decided to do it, and it took. I did through Ancestry, and it took around 5 weeks to do the whole thing. It's a very simple procedure. They mail you this little tube with instructions, and you spit on the tube, and then you just mail it back to the US. It's a US company. I heard that there's other companies more specific for Europeans. They might have better databases, but we went with this one, and I think it's one of the most famous ones. I heard that there's some controversies with 23andMe. I'm not even sure if they're still in business, which was another big one. Anyway, so my results are here, and I want to check them out. I already saw them. I just want to keep this for a record, just in case I might not have access to the websites in a few years. At least I'll have this YouTube video. This is my profile, and then here in DNA, I can have a look at my summary. The most interesting thing is really the ancestral regions. I have 18 of them, apparently. You have this little map here that shows you the main regions, and here are the percentages. Azores and Portugal are the biggest ones, no surprise there. Azores is the archipelagos of Portugal. Here, this little island collection here. It's an archipelagos of 9 islands. It is still, and it has been for a long time, very common for people to mingle between the continent and the islands. Then obviously continental Portugal. Then you have Spain, Madeira, northern Spain, Canary Islands here in the north of Africa region. And one of the things that surprised me the most is how much Italian background I have, actually. Southern Italy and central Italy. My father is Italian and my grandfather is Italian from the side of my father, but I was not expecting this much because I was expecting a little bit more on Brazil. But for South America, they consider it an indigenous Americas. It's just 2%, which is actually really surprising. It means that maybe from the side of my Brazilian family, they may have come from other places. I don't know. I don't know how it works really. And then Albanian and Ionian Islands. This makes sense because there was a lot of migration from Greece and Albania to Italy. So this is not a big surprise there. It's still Europe, so it does make a lot of sense. France as well makes some sense. England, so specific. Cornwall, I don't know why, but yeah, makes sense as well. Still very close by. And then Sardinia, the same thing. Italy, and the most surprising thing would be really Senegal. I would say having some Senegal DNA. Senegalese, having some Senegalese DNA. And then north of Africa also makes sense. It's very common for people of southern Europe to have some of this blood because there was a lot of migrations from north of Africa to southern Europe. And then Persia, which I think it makes some sense. I'm not sure where my name comes from, Jordan. Maybe from the Jordan River or Jordania, but yeah, might make some sense to have some Middle Eastern background. I'm actually quite pleased with these results. They make sense to me. I was expecting to be a bit more diversified, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case. It's mostly Europe and just a little bit here and there of other things. Then other things that they have is the traits. The traits are not that accurate from what I understand. There's a lot of things that they didn't get right, but it's all about probability as well. You have a genotype that is expressed as a phenotype, so the actual characteristics you can see. The DNA is just one side of the story. It's kind of like, you know, you have an alphabet, but then what story you tell with the alphabet is really up to, in this case, chance. And then there's the whole thing of the proteomics, which makes it really, really complex. So these are just interesting to look at. They're not that accurate. For example, my birth weight, it was really average for a Portuguese baby. I know I was born with 3 kilos point 4, I think. That's middle, not low. And having into account that I'm a twin, I was born with another baby with me. That was also 3.3 or 4. It makes us actually pretty big babies for twins. Less likely to have wet earwax. That's really specific. I guess makes sense. It's a DNA, but I do have wet earwax, I think. Then eyelash length, longer eyelashes, I guess. Eye color, of course, dark eyes. All of these interesting traits. Just take them with a pinch of salt. They're not that accurate. There are a few ones that are really surprising that I saw before. For example, this one, the wisdom teeth. Yeah, I didn't develop any of my wisdom teeth. I think I don't have the top ones, and the bottom ones are really like little pearls. They will never come out or anything. And it is unlikely to develop all 4 wisdom teeth. That's cool. That was true. But apparently something. If you click on the trait, you can see a little bit more information on it. Around a third of people may be missing at least one of their wisdom teeth, the molars furthest back in the mouth. But then you can also see that wisdom teeth development is at least 8% genetic and at most 92% environmental. So it can be a lot of nurture and not as much nature. But in any case, it's interesting to have a look. And these are just the appearance traits. If you have a look at all traits, they're listed here. Even the dominant foot, which says that I should be right foot dominant, which I'm not. I'm left foot dominant, but I write with my right hand, so I don't know where they take this from. A lot of things are not right. Saying that I might prefer savory food, which is not true. I prefer sweet, more artistic. That's so subjective. What is art? You artistic if you're a musician, or you artistic if you do boxing. You know, it's sport and art. It's just very. This feels a lot like astrology for genetics. So yeah, it's not that important, but it's just interesting to have a look. It's something they provide you with. And then finally, they allow you to connect with other people that might share some DNA with you. These are some of the people that I might have some DNA with. First cousin, first time removed, or second cousin. I don't even understand these degrees of separation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I am mostly Portuguese, 40% Portuguese, and then a lot of Italian in me as well, and then a mix of a lot of different regions. I would recommend Ancestry because it's the only one I've done, but I might do the other ones that are more recommended for Europeans, just to see if more granularity shows up, for example, in the Americas or even within Africa.